Hi there, I'm Jim Zirin. Welcome back for more Conversations in the Digital Age. We are very much honored to have with us Raymond W. Kelly, the longest serving police commissioner in New York history. Ray Kelly served as police commissioner under Mayor David Dinkins from 1992 to 1994 at the time of the first attack on the World Trade Center. Later, he served in the same post for 12 years from 2002 to 2014 under Mayor Michael Bloomberg. On his watch, the crime rate, and particularly the homicide rate, declined to new, low record levels. He famously founded a premier counterterrorism unit within the NYPD that thwarted 16 terrorist plots against New Yorkers. He beautifully tells his story of dedicated public service in a fascinating new book entitled Vigilance, a national bestseller. He is now the vice chairman of the investigative group of K2 Intelligence. Ray Kelly, we're delighted to have you back with us.
Always good to be with you, Jim.
Now, I knew that one of your hobbies is to play the drums, and I knew that another one of your hobbies is to paint, but I didn't know you were a writer. What possessed you to write this book?
Well, I think I've been fortunate in having a lot of experiences and opportunities in my life that are interesting. I was, as you say, the New York City Police Commissioner twice. I was in the department for over 40 years. I was an undersecretary in Bill Clinton's administration in the Treasury. I was the U.S. Customs Commissioner. I was a Marine in Vietnam. I was on the
Saw combat
board. I did. I was even the boxing commissioner of New York State. I spent 6 months in Haiti, heading the International Police Monitor. So there's a lot of experiences and hopefully lessons learned, some the hard way, that are in this book.
Now, your life is really a true New York and American success story. You started from relatively modest beginnings on the Upper West Side. Why don't you tell us something about that?
That's right. That's when the Upper West Side was modest.
But now it's gentrified.
Now you can't live there. Too expensive. Yes, I was born on the West Side. My father was a milkman. My mother wasn't working when I was born, but a few years later, she went to work in Macy's. I'm the youngest of five children, and I talk about it in the book. It was like a United Nations building that we lived in. We had people from all over, from Norway, from Italy, from Germany. And I had a terrific childhood. There were some times that it got a little rough, a little tension. It was a little bit of a West Side Story element, if you've seen the play and the movie. So there's a fair amount of fighting, street fighting type things that happened. My father thought the neighborhood was getting dangerous, particularly for me. I was the youngest, so we moved to Queens, and moved to Queens when I was a teenager. And I went to a Catholic school, Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school, Archbishop Molloy.
Catholic college.
Went to Catholic college and Catholic law school. Went to
and then Harvard.
College, then Harvard, right? Ruled it all. No. I went in the Marine Corps, became a commissioned officer in the Marine Corps. That's when I went to Vietnam. Came back to the police department. I actually started in the police department as a cadet, which was an effort to get matriculating college students into policing.
You graduated at the top of your class in the police academy.
I did.
I know you've been a great supporter of advanced education for police officers, and particularly so they can get college degrees. But while you're at the police department, you also went to law school. Was that at night?
I did go at night, yes.
And from St. John's, and you got your law degree. In fact, you practiced law for a little while, and then you also went to Harvard. So tell about Harvard. What made you go to Harvard?
Well, in the interim, I got a LLM degree from NYU.
Oh, right.
And then I went on leave from the police department to go to the Harvard Kennedy School. It was a great experience for me. showed there's a big world out there, and I think policing tends to insulate people, and the Harvard Kennedy School experience for me opened up the world, you might say.
Now, the great breakthrough in your career was when Police Commissioner Ben Ward in the Koch administration heard about this young, dashing captain who had been to Harvard, been to St. John's Law School, was top of his class at the police academy, and he thought maybe you should have a job of some responsibility. So tell about that. What happened?
Well, there was this allegation that police officers were torturing prisoners in the 106th precinct. No other way to put it, they were using a stun gun. So that case broke, and police officers were arrested, and Ben Ward assigned me to be the commanding officer of that precinct in the immediate aftermath of the arrest of the officers. So
about how many commands did you have in the police department? In your career?
I actually had, in terms of precinct commands, I was in 25 different assignments, but in terms of precinct commands, I had 4 precinct commands, and they're fascinating. They're little microcosms of the world and of the police department. So I've enjoyed every moment of my time in the department. Some more than others, but it's great.
And then, of course, you became first deputy police commissioner, and then under Dinkins, when Lee Brown left, you became the police commissioner. Now, immediately, what reforms did you introduce in the police department?
We had, in the first time, we had an ongoing investigation concerning a police officer and a group of police officers in East New York that were accused of protecting drug dealers. It was a major matter. So things had to be changed, in my view. We changed the internal investigative apparatus. It was not reporting directly to the police commissioner. I wanted that. I wanted to know what was going on. We reformed the internal affairs division significantly. We brought in McKinsey and Company to help us do that. We made a series of other changes. Actually, I was involved in putting together, as the first deputy commissioner, the Safe Streets, Safe City program, which increased the department by about 5,000 police officers. And I was involved in that study. We started to implement it. Mayor Dinkins' term ended, and the extra 5,000 police officers, if you will, all came on board pretty much on Mayor Giuliani's watch.
Now, what about diversity in the police department? You were also involved with that, were you not?
Yeah, it was certainly a major challenge in those days, and I thought that we could do better, particularly as far as African Americans are concerned. So we focused on working through black churches, and I think it worked very well. I used to visit a lot of churches. They enabled me to get my message out, speak from the pulpit, and we had a very successful test. One test that was given specifically at the end of 1993 was significantly populated by minorities. However, there was a requirement that you had 60 college credits, which was just being put in. The next administration wouldn't waive that. So it wasn't as ultimately as successful as we wanted to be in terms of hires, but in terms of getting minority applicants into the process, it was very successful.
Well, Giuliani comes in, you're out of a job, you were doing some work for the federal government, and then you were customs commissioner, and then Bloomberg is elected mayor in 2001, and the reign of Kelly II begins. He appoints you police commissioner. So now in the first Kelly regime, if you will, we had the first attack on the World Trade Center.
Right.
So that was your first contact, wasn't it, with Islamic terrorism?
Right. It was a jolting event. I was in my office, and I was told that there was a transformer explosion at the World Trade Center. I went over there right away and saw a sea of red lights. But we realized fairly soon that, no, this was not a transformer explosion, that it was probably man-made. It wasn't absolutely certain, but it was the first terrorist attack of any consequence. Over 1,000 people injured, 6 people killed, and that should have been a wake-up call for the country, quite frankly, but it wasn't. It was sort of written off as almost a joke. If you recall, one of the plotters went back to get the deposit on the truck that they used, and this was seen as, being unwise, let's put it that way.
The gang that couldn't shoot straight.
Right, but in fact, what they tried to do was sort of cover up their tracks. Their position was, hey, our truck was stolen. We don't know what happened to it, So that arrest was made 6 days after the bombing, and the other people were rolled up relatively quickly. But I don't think we took appropriate lessons from that experience, lessons that hopefully would have lessened the chance of having a 9/11. But we did, and of course we paid the consequences.
But after 9/11, and when you took office, you rapidly made some dramatic changes in the police department with regard to terrorism. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, we knew that we had to do something different. We knew, of course, that we had the first World Trade Center attack, and then we had the second attack with 2,700 people killed in New York City. Mayor Bloomberg had just been elected, and we knew, the Bloomberg administration, Mayor Bloomberg, myself, we knew that we had to do things differently. We had to, at the very least, supplement what the federal government was doing to protect New York City. And we also wanted to raise the comfort level of the citizens. There was a lot of anxiety in those days, certainly immediately after 9/11. So we created the first counterterrorism bureau of any police department in the country. We brought in expertise from outside the city government, from the federal government. David Cohn, 35-year veteran of the Central Intelligence Agency, came in to head our intelligence operations. Frank Labuti, a recently retired Marine General, Lieutenant General, came in to head our counterterrorism division. We brought in analysts. We brought in people from CIA, DIA, other federal agencies, analysts from some of the top educational institutions in the country. We ultimately assigned police officers overseas, funded by the New York City Police Foundation. Their job was to act as tripwires, listening posts to help us better protect New York.
So when we had this attack in Mumbai in India, 2008, you sent New York City police officers to Mumbai in order to find out if there was any possible relevance to what might happen in New York.
Right, and they did. They did an excellent job. And in 5 days, we had them hooked up with 400 people sitting out an auditorium and a radio telephone transmission. They had a 75-page report that they produced. We gave that to the FBI. I had a tabletop exercise with the commanders. We had an actual exercise at Floyd Bennett Field, roughly approximating what happened in Mumbai, all, mind you, within 5 days. That's what we wanted rapidity of response of information. Our police officers had been there 18 months before because there was an attack on commuter trains in Mumbai. We wanted to get that information. So we had already established relationships with the police in Mumbai. They took our officers around. They went to the Shabbat Lubavitch house, for instance. They were in the train station. They determined that automatic weapons were not used because there were no bullet markings up the wall. Things like that, and as a result of Mumbai attacks, we did certain things. We increased the number of heavy weapons trained police officers in the department. We took a cadre of officers from Organized Crime Control Bureau and trained them to be the backup to our emergency service officers in the event of a protracted situation like we saw in Mumbai. And we also filmed the insides of major hotels in New York to familiarize police officers with first responders. They went into a hotel. Where would they go? Where's the camera room? Those sorts of things. So we got a lot of lessons from Mumbai, and I think it showed the value of having our overseas officers in place.
So let's talk about some lessons. We find that in light of the attacks overseas and also in the most recent attack in San Bernardino, California, that the public in New York is nervous, as you say it was after 9/11, and it would like to have some confidence that everything is being done that should be done. Now, the president has spoken. He has not put forth any real program for intensifying anti-terrorism, and Donald Trump may have overreacted. What's your assessment of the present situation?
Well, this is a very difficult issue for us. There's no easy answers. Everybody wants, a one-sentence answer to it. I think what we have to do, first of all, look at the record that we've had. This is the first major terrorist event, if you don't count Major Hussein in Fort Hood, shooting those,
the Fort Hood doctor,
people
yes.
in Fort Hood. But this is the first major terrorist event we've had in the country since 9/11. So that is a pretty good track record. And there's been over 70 plots that have been uncovered in the country since that time. I think what we have to do is intensify what's going on now. I think you sort of have to ramp it up. In terms of overseas work, I think possibly a more robust special operations component on the ground, maybe in Jordan or Turkey. I know all those things are difficult to negotiate, but not the conventional boots on the ground, but the ability to strike and to go back to a safe haven, I think is something that should be considered. I know we sent 50 over, and now we're increasing it somewhat. I think a larger force of greater capacity to strike as far as special operations are concerned is something to be considered. Several of the political people have talked about a safe zone, safe havens in Syria. I think that should be certainly closely examined. But we need allies to do this. I don't think we should have U.S. regular ground troops on the ground there. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey together have 1.2 million troops under arms. They're the ones that should be putting some sort of ground component in place.
Establish a safe haven for refugees.
Yeah.
Combined perhaps with a no-fly zone in that area.
Well, a no-fly zone obviously has to be nuanced. It has to be handled carefully because
we have
you have the Russians who are flying there.
Okay, but let's look at domestic measures now. Do you think Trump overreacted when he said we should bar Muslims from the United States, even temporarily?
Oh, I think it's unconstitutional on its face. The Supreme Court has said many times that the Constitution doesn't only apply to citizens; it goes beyond on citizenship. So I think that's unconstitutional. Whether it works politically or not,
would it do any good? I mean, these here you had
born in the U.S.
Here you had in San Bernardino an American citizen and his wife.
Yeah. So our concern here, I think, is largely homegrown people who are in the country already, and in 16 plots that we've had here, that was a large portion of it were people who were right here in their own basement getting radicalized by watching TV. I think one thing that should be considered is for the federal government to sort of extend its reach with law enforcement agencies. Now, the FBI has about 100 joint terrorism task forces throughout the country, and local police are plugged into that. But when I say local police, usually the larger departments. But there's now a concern throughout the country about the terrorist attack. That's why San Bernardino was a game changer, because it certainly wasn't the crossroads of the world. It was a city of 200,000 people, but nobody could have reasonably expected that to be a terrorist target. So I think those suburban and rural police agencies have to be brought into the fold a little more, because their citizens, their taxpayers, are going to demand more from them in terms of, hey, we're all vulnerable. What are you doing about it? So I think, and we'll probably see some sort of extended reach on the part of the federal government in that regard.
Would you favor greater regulation of gun ranges? Gun ranges seem to have played a role in all this. Terrorist teams have to practice in order to master their weaponry, and here they used a number of gun ranges. If there'd been a database and there'd been a questionnaire. I mean, after all, we do that for flight schools. We did that after 9/11. So someone can't come in and say, I want to learn how to fly a plane, but not how to take off or how to land.
Yeah, I'm all for more gun control, but this problem goes way beyond that. These individuals could have done what they did and perhaps more damage by suicide bombs, and they were in fact building bombs in their house. So, I don't see this as a gun issue. I think the gun show loophole, those sorts of things should be addressed. But there are many other weapons, many other things that can be done beyond gun control.
What about shutting down terrorist websites with recipes on how to make a bomb?
Very difficult to do. This is what we're told by the security agencies, that it's very difficult to do. You stop one, the other one pops up. There's tweeting, there's retweeting. It's like 90,000 tweets a day that are going out from ISIS or ISIS affiliates. So it's very hard, number one, to get your arms around it. If you try to close them down, they open up very quickly at on another site. They're very sophisticated and have great facility in the area of the internet.
Now, what we saw in San Bernardino was an instance of homegrown terrorism.
Right.
The president and the New York Times have greeted this problem as though it just arose yesterday. The fact is, you issued a report in which you analyzed homegrown terrorism, talked about the various stages in which people become radicalized, and the implication certainly was that we have to try to nip it in the bud and get at these people at a pre-radicalization stage.
Yeah.
So what would you do about homegrown terrorism?
Well, I think we're doing pretty much everything that we reasonably can do these days. Monitoring websites, obviously, you like any information you can get. But this is a big issue. It's going to be with us for many years. I don't think there's I certainly don't see any easy answer other than staying the course and doing what we've been doing. As I say, we've been pretty successful here for 14 years. Certainly New York City has not seen a successful terrorist attack, and New York is the consensus #1 target in the United States as far as the intelligence community is concerned.
Well, you had a demographics unit within the police department, which seemed to focus on terrorists in the Islamic community, among other places. And then now that's recently been dissolved and regrouped. Do you think that weakens our intelligence approach?
If the system is not in place, or if this process is not going on, yeah, it does. This was a totally legitimate unit that was put in place. It was my idea to do it. I want to know who's living in the city. I'm charged with the responsibility of protecting the city. New York is the most diverse city in the world. In the 2004 Olympics, we had people in our school system from every one of the 202 participants in that Olympics, just to show you the diversity of New York. We didn't have specific enough information. We want to know if we get a report that someone is coming from someplace in the Middle East, we don't know where they're going. We want to know, generally speaking, what neighborhood they'd be going into. And we knew, for instance, where the Boston bombers might go if they had come to New York. They said they were coming to New York after they hijacked the car. And we knew where they were Chechen. We knew where the Chechen communities were in the metropolitan area, which is just one example of the benefits of that unit. This was not a unit to generate leads or investigations. It was done totally in the open. It wasn't surreptitious. You go into communities and ask questions as to where they came from, that sort of thing. Go into cafes. People knew they were from the police department. They weren't hiding it. And this notion that they didn't develop any leads, I say in the book, it's like saying that Derek Jeter didn't score any touchdowns. That wasn't his job. That's not what he does. He's a baseball player, not a football player. So it was written about in a series of articles by two Associated Press reporters, certainly in a pejorative way. And as a result of that, this administration eliminated the unit, got a front page story in in the newspaper as a result, and we're proud of that. Although now this is the time in history where that type of granular information is more important than ever. The information that unit was generating.
Okay, so we're rapidly running out of time, but you believe that it is possible to ferret out terrorists at the pre-radicalization stage consistent with our First and 14th Amendment
Absolutely.
Fourth Amendment values.
You have to do things pursuant to the Constitution. We had a cadre of first-rate lawyers that made certain we did that. But it's hard work, no question about it. You have to keep at it. And you look at these individuals in San Bernardino. They had a very low profile, very difficult to spot people.
Okay, so I have a quick question for you. How do we prevent the next terrorist attack?
Well, I wish there was an easy answer to that as well. We continue to do what we've been doing, perhaps intensify it, but I think to be realistic, there certainly is a possibility of another terrorist attack in the homeland.
Is there a possibility that our next mayor will be named Kelly?
Well, never say never.
Never say never. Ray Kelly, thank you
so
very
much
for
Jim.
coming by. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming by. Tune in next week for more conversations in the digital age. I'm Jim Zirin. All the best and good luck.